Okay, everybody, today's MCAT video question of the day is enzyme kinetics and inhibition. An MCAT favorite, probably never see an exam without questions on enzyme kinetics and inhibition, probably because so many drugs use various inhibition mechanisms in order to work in the body. So what's the question? An inhibitor of hexokinase 1 was active only when bound to the enzyme substrate complex. This would, and you get two different types of answer choices. You get increase or decrease the Km, and you get competitive and uncompetitive inhibition. This is what we call a 2x2 question. So how could you deduce what the answer would be knowing how enzyme kinetics and inhibition works without having a preform memorized graph in your mind? So what you can do is draw out the equation. E plus S gives you the ES intermediate, and then the ES intermediate can go to the enzyme plus the product. That's the equation without inhibition. But when you add in the inhibitor, what you do is you write out another equilibrium where ES plus the inhibitor gives you ESI. And what you immediately recognize is that you're going to make less product because the ES will be driven into ESI, depleting the amount of P. But that's not the question. The question is about the Km. What then you recognize is that the ES complex is being driven into ESI, and so this is a classic Le Chatelier's principle where the ES reaction into ESI is driving E plus S forward, and when you drive it forward, what you do is you create a higher affinity between E plus S. And then when you have a higher affinity, you immediately associate that with a lower Km. And then when you come over to your graphs, what you see on the left is that the Km decreases as well as the V max decreasing. You recognize that as uncompetitive inhibition. And if you were given a Lineweaver-Burke plot, you can also figure it out as well, because you know the y-intercept in a Lineweaver-Burke is 1 over V max, as represented by the plus I being higher, because it's inverse, and then the Km on a Lineweaver-Burke plot, you look at the x-intercept, recognizing that it actually is -1 over Km, and so the inhibitor is further to the left. Uncompetitive inhibition, MCAT. Come check us out at medpathway.com.